Today we got crazy LeBron fan gets destroyed in GOAT debate. Man. Let's see what this is about. Links in the description, man. Without further introduction,
Over the
let's get
past
into
couple
it.
of years, the
Video
biggest
about
debate
Uncle
NBA fans
Hoops,
have
man. Shout out
had
Uncle
is who the
Hoops.
greatest player of all time. So what I want to do in today's video, I want to look at an older LeBron James fan who's arguing LeBron versus Michael Jordan. His overall
that's
takes
the chill guy.
and
I be watching Player's Choice. That shit fire.
Speaking facts. In this video, very quickly, I'm going to debunk him, set the record straight, and once again show you guys why Michael Jordan and not LeBron James is the greatest player in NBA history.
You, just like everybody else who was Jordan fans, are under the impression that Michael Jordan's career started in 1991, and it did not. Michael Jordan was in the league for 7 years prior to that. So since we're on the subject of finals, Michael Jordan was in the Eastern Conference Finals in 1989, and he started the series, the first 3 games, he was averaging 30 a game. The Detroit Pistons, they put the clamp on him. That 30 went down to 22, and they end up losing the series. So Jordan has had some duds, right?
So stopping him right there at the beginning, that's one of the biggest strawman arguments I've ever heard. Saying Jordan fans don't care about the 80s and what he did before his championships. Nobody with a functioning brain thinks like that, and him saying this is a very cheap debate tactic. As looking at Jordan pre-championships,
I mean, he's saying a lot of people
stretch
just act like it never happened. That's
how
what he's
great he
saying.
is. As a rookie, he averaged
Nah,
28.2
yeah.
points per
His
game.
young Jordan was
8.1
different, though.
Points, rebounds, assists,
Young Jordan
and
was
steals.
different.
And the following year in '86 versus Boston in the playoffs, he averaged 43 points per game and had a record for points in a single game, dropping 63. Looking at 1987, he averaged 37.1 points per game, the highest in the modern era, and the most since Wilt Chamberlain. 88, he won MVP, DPOY, was the NBA scoring leader, steals leader, minutes per game leader, and played all 82 games. In 89, he made the Eastern Conference Finals as a 6th seed and versus the Cavs had the iconic game-winning shot over Craig Elo. Why would any Michael Jordan fan in their right mind ignore all of that and wipe it off the slate? As once again, Jordan in the 80s, pre-championship, makes him even greater in comparison to the 90s. Now, looking past that, the second part of his clip was absolute lies and false reporting. As in the 89 Eastern Conference Finals, he said Jordan the first 3 games only averaged 30, and Detroit clamped him to only 22. And he caps it off by saying Jordan vs. Detroit this series, quote-unquote, had a dud. Now, looking at the first 3 games, Jordan actually averaged 35 points instead of 30, and the final 3 games averaged 24.3 instead of 22. That's the first part. Now, the second part, saying Jordan had a dud in this series is simply ludicrous. As in total, he averaged 30 points, nearly 7 assists, 5.5 boards, 2 steals, on 46% shooting. Adding even more context, Jordan's second best player was Craig Hodges, who averaged 12 points. And looking at Detroit, this team had the best record in the NBA, winning 60-plus games, and the playoffs only lost 2 games total, both to Jordan's Bulls. I want you guys to make a mental note of this. Jordan having a dud series is averaging 37-5 with no help and taking the Pistons to 6 games.
So let's fast forward to the 1993 Eastern Conference Championship, where Michael Jordan has started the series shooting 25% against the Knicks, and they're down in the series. Not only are they down in the series, Game 3, when they come back home, it took a 29-12 effort from Scottie Pippen in order for them to get back in the series. Otherwise, they down 3-0 because Jordan goes 3 for 18, and he gives them nothing that night. So Mike has had some duds. Let's not make it sound like Jordan has just been rolling the entire time, because no, he has not.
Now, stopping him right there, once again, he had some blatant lies and missteps on factual information. As looking at Jordan in this series, he says he was shooting 25% in the first 3 games. In reality, it was 37% and he was still averaging 32 points. The second thing he says is that Pippen in Game 3 had 29-12, when in reality, it was 29-4 and not 12. And the last thing, he says Jordan this game gave Chicago absolutely nothing, when in reality, he had 11 assists, a game high, 8 rebounds, a high for the Bulls, also 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 22 points, which was still the second most in this game. I'm not saying Jordan played great in this game, he wasn't even average Jordan, he had a bad game. But saying he gave them nothing is simply false. And I do find it pretty hilarious, for Jordan, he's been compared to absolute perfection. And when critiquing him, you have to go to single games and not full series. Because as you know in Jordan's career, he never had one series where he choked the entire time. As even looking at this series versus the Knicks, he averaged 32 points, 7 assists, 6 boards, 2.5 steals on 40% from the field, as well as 3. He led his team in points, assists, steals, and blocks, and in Game 4 down 2-1, had 54 points. My main problem with LeBron James fans, and especially this guy, is when he critiques Jordan, he's comparing him to absolute perfection, nitpicking games here and there to show why Jordan wasn't always great. But when it comes to LeBron James, that same energy is never applied. As looking at LeBron James, for an entire series, he's been bad in his career. Look at the 07 Finals versus the Spurs. In that series, he averaged 22 points on 35% shooting, had 5.8 turnovers. He had one game only scoring 14
I was in his
points,
fourth year,
and not
man.
once cracked 25.
I was in his fourth year, man. You're
Swept.
saying he wasn't supposed to even be there,
Looking at
man.
Boston, he averaged
You're right, though. He
23
definitely did
points
play bad.
on 35% shooting with 5.3 turnovers.
Played bad here, too.
That on its own is pretty bad, but looking at the first 4 games, it was absolutely dreadful. Averaging 18.8 points, 5.8 turnovers on 26% shooting. And funny enough, the Cavs in those games were still tied 2-2 with the Big 3 Celtics.
Hey.
And if you want to nitpick further, LeBron in this series had absolute duds. In one game, going 2 for 18 from the field with 10 turnovers, and another game, 6 of 24 with 7 turnovers. Even looking at 2010 versus Boston, Cleveland once again was very, very competitive, and actually this time they were up 2-1. But in the final 3 games, LeBron James averaged 21.3 points, 6.3 turnovers on 34% shooting. He completely
bad
choked,
performance,
he folded,
definitely.
and once again had a dud.
He said he completely choked.
Now, speaking
He
of
folded
duds,
and had a
really
dud.
quickly,
Yo, oh my God. There you go, uncut.
LeBron James in the 2011 Finals. As for this series, he averaged 17.8 points per game, less than Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Dirk, and even Jason
Yeah,
Terry.
he did bad.
And the absolute worst thing from this series is that in Game 4, LeBron James, the quote-unquote GOAT, only had 8 total points. Compared to Michael Jordan, who not once in the finals had under 20 points, and for a series never averaged less than 27. This right here is the point of the
That's
video.
different.
When you nitpick Michael Jordan,
Nah, yeah, that's
so
different.
hard,
That's different.
so
That's different.
critical, be ready to have the exact same energy for LeBron James. Because if you do, you realize LeBron had way more moments where he had duds or even choked.
Let's not make it sound like Jordan has just been rolling the entire time, because no, he has not. I seen him go 9 for 35 against the Miami Heat in 1997 in the Eastern Conference Championship. Michael Jordan has had some duds. I've seen him go 4 for 18 against the Miami Heat. I've seen that happen. So it's not like it's a situation where Michael Jordan's career started in 1991 and this is all we're going to judge him on. No, we have to judge him on the same thing that we judge everybody else on, in totality.
So once again, for Michael Jordan,
dropping
this
my
guy
phone.
is looking at single games and not even playoff series. Once again, proving Michael Jordan is so great, the only time you can nitpick him is for single bad performances and not series like LeBron James. And one thing he did bring up was Jordan versus the Heat in 1997. Once again, leaving out, Jordan for that series averaged 38-3, and his Bulls team dominated in 5 games. I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again, but for Michael Jordan, his dud series is averaging 30 points per game. No other player in NBA history is held to that standard. And one big mistake he did make at the very end was talking about Jordan and his entire resume being compared to LeBron James. In my opinion, That's a very fatal mistake and a death blow to his overall points. As Jordan compared to LeBron still has more MVPs, more DPOYs, more Finals MVPs, all defensive teams, scoring titles, championships, and less Finals losses.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Looking at Jordan and less Finals losses. And for the nail in the coffin in this debate, looking at Jordan LeBron and the gap in overall accolades, that gap is a Hall of Fame resume and a first Hall of Famer.
Jordan going 6-0 in the NBA Finals. Right, I can appreciate that. So, with that also, I will not diminish the fact that he went 6-0. I will not diminish that he went 6-0 in the NBA Finals. What I do have to mention though is that he did have that unit built around him. He had Scottie Pippen for 5 years before they won the NBA champ. 4 years before they won the NBA championship.
I want to be very clear in saying this. Scottie Pippen all time is a great player, and for the Bulls teams, they would not have won 6 championships without Scottie. But when talking about the pre-championship Pippen, that guy historically is not a Hall of Famer. As in his first 3 years, he only made 1 All-Star game, averaging 12.9 points per game, 5.5 boards, 3.7 assists on 48% shooting. The Pippen this guy is talking about isn't prime Scottie and was not a perennial All-Star. And one more thing I do want to point out, when it comes to LeBron fans, their overall argument is never Jordan versus LeBron straight up and comparing them. For one, it's Jordan versus perfection, and 2, it's Jordan's teammates versus LeBron's teammates. Why not just compare both these players, look at their resumes, how good they were, the numbers, and make your choice based off that? And when it comes to Jordan,
I believe we should do it of dominance compared to their respective eras. You know, the way they dominated their era, who dominated their era more. You know, as of right now, Jordan has dominated his era more. But, LeBron is still going. You understand me? He's still going. He gets a quarter of a century. That's pretty great if you ask me. A quarter of a century of greatness. You know, that's when it gets a little different. That's when it gets a little different. If it gets to 27, 20, 28 years, and watch out. It might be too much. It might end up being too much to say. You know what I'm saying? He isn't. You know, that's all I'm saying, man. That's all I'm saying.
6 championships.
That's all I'm saying.
4. Yes, in the NBA Finals, he had a better record, but more importantly, he never choked in a single series. And comparing their Finals resumes, it's pretty damning in MJ's favor, as he averaged nearly 34 points, 6.0 boards, 6.0 assists on 48, 37, and 80 splits. Compared to LeBron James, who averaged 28 points, 10 boards, 8 assists on 48, 35, and 73 splits. And one thing I did find very, very intriguing is that Michael Jordan in 6 championship appearances won 24 total games. LeBron James in 10 finals appearances has only won 22. When it comes to comparing these guys, of course, they're both all-time great players at the top of NBA Mount Rushmore. But looking at Jordan, he was simply more accomplished, he won more, didn't choke in the finals, he was much better in the finals, better in the playoffs, and his highs were much higher than LeBron James. Now, with that last point being made that is in the video, as always, thank you guys for watching, hope you
and that's the end of this one, y'all. Yeah, man, LeBron's still going, so it's like, it's always time. Only time will tell. If you enjoyed this reaction, make sure you click on the last one, turn on post notifications, and I'm out of here.